Don't rock in the dark. Lighting elevates your band's stage presence to higher levels of professionalism and dynamic energy. Chauve DJ makes powerful entertainment lighting that sets up and tears down quickly and easily. Pack and Go systems like 4-bar and Gig Bar 2 have multiple LED lights on one bar. They're easy to mount and haul with included tripods and bags. Control is easy too. Chauve DJ's cutting-edge Bluetooth lighting products produce amazing effects controlled right from a phone or tablet. Don't just rock the spotlight with Chauve DJ. Learn more at chauvedj.com. What's up, guitar noobs? This is the Cover Band Confidential Podcast, the podcast for cover band musicians and band leaders to learn how to rock more and suck less. Here in Atlanta, Georgia, I'm Adam Johnson, and joining me all the way from downtown, the illustrious Cooper Carter joining us this evening. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. We've had a couple of challenges offline trying to get everything set up, but I was trying to rack my brain to figure out when we actually met. I have like my first record of us like conversing on like Facebook is like 5 years ago, but we've had to know each other way before that. Because I think we were still playing original music at that time.
Perhaps, yeah. I mean, I remember seeing your band, cover band, play at the back lot of the Masquerade. Probably, I mean, it had to. I was at my old place, so it had to have been at least 4 or 5 years ago at this point. But I feel like we've known each other longer than that. I feel
like Meddlesome is the through line. I feel like that's probably where I met you.
Absolutely, I was hanging out there last week.
It's been a few months since I've been, but it's always a good time.
It is always.
So I feel like every time I've done an interview with somebody in the Atlanta music scene, like that is the through line. Like, oh, I met you at Meddlesome. So
sure.
It just goes to show that going out and meeting other musicians and networking is probably a smart idea.
Yes, it is. Yeah, never not a good idea. I think it's hilarious. Meddlesome is where we're saying is the place to do that. I love that spot. It's one of my faves.
For sure. If you're ever in the Atlanta area, check out 10 High. They will take good care of you. You will have fun.
Definitely do. It has turned into such a scene, man. It's crazy. I used to go there kind of just to chill with industry players and kick a couple beers back and listen to some tunes, and now it's like this massive, crazy party every night. Yeah. I'm so happy for them.
You basically need to go on Monday if you're going to go.
Right, yeah. Go on Monday before midnight.
Indeed. That's the way to go.
Or else you can't move.
Indeed. So Cooper is a number of things, but primarily he's a guitar player. And, one of the things that I really try to drill down on when we're doing these interviews and stuff, it's not just that Cooper is a guitar player. He is an immensely talented guitar player.
Thank you.
And his creativity's kind of just been the thing that's propelled him forward. For those of you outside of the Atlanta area, you may know Cooper from a number of things. Way in the way back when YouTube was just a quaint little place, Cooper had a series called Solo a Week, where he would go in and break down famous solos from different songs. From there, he's gotten work. I mean, a lot of it was through your video work. Was kind of how you built your following online. The thing that really broke out for you though was, it's probably been a couple years back. You did a cover of the main Star Wars theme where you played every part of the orchestral score on guitar.
Yeah, exactly. That was definitely the first thing that, I mean, I'd done, YouTube videos that I was lucky to have a pretty healthy following on my channel and a lot of great interaction from the guitar community and the Fractal audio community, because I was using the Axe and Ernie Ball Music Band guitars, and so. But yeah, I mean, the Star Wars thing was the first thing that really kind of took over the world for 5 minutes or so before the Force Awakens came out.
Yeah, and
that was a lot of fun.
I can't even get like actual numbers on it because I feel like it's been shared across so many different channels that the stats on your YouTube account don't even cover like half of probably the amount of plays you've gotten. It's
an interesting kind of wrinkle in that story. And I tell it at the risk of sounding a bit like sour grapes, but actually right as that video was really kind of blowing up on YouTube, it was the front page of Reddit and the front page of Reddit Guitar, and Entertainment Weekly had written about it, and all the guitar magazines and everything. And then somebody reported it as like offensive or whatever on Facebook, and every Facebook share disappeared pending a manual review. So the YouTube video stalled around like 700,000 views or something, and but the Facebook version of the video, there's a conspiracy theory there for those who are into that the Facebook one survived that purge. I think has 3 or 4 million views or something, but honestly, like I have a lot of thoughts about view counts and how much we all place emphasis on that, because I kind of stopped caring about the views when I got a call from NPR and did an interview. Like that to me was much more fulfilling than having however million views or whatever, and being interviewed on a classical music channel and asked about the intricacies behind what was being done to John Williams' score and everything on the guitar. That was that was great. But yeah, there is kind of a weird metric thing going on there as far as being able to trace exactly what the impact of something is. There are just so many different avenues content's shared on now, which I think is really can be a real boon to creatives, and can also kind of engender an atmosphere where things that aren't really that important start having a lot of value placed upon them, which is a whole conversation for a different podcast, probably.
I don't have... well, that would be one for a little further down the line. But let's go back. So how did you get started playing music? Like, when did you pick up guitar? Like, what were your main influences, all that jazz?
I started as a drummer, actually. Okay. When I was... I got my first set when I was 4, and I played drums really religiously for years. I did my first professional work as a musician, as a guitarist, playing gigs at 10 High, actually, back before it was meddlesome. I played a lot of gigs there. Played a lot of gigs at the Red Light Cafe and all of those classic Atlanta spots. And I think around about that time, though, maybe 5 or 6, my parents got me started on guitar. I guess technically it was a 4-string kind of like ukulele starter thing. And I absolutely... Can we swear on this? I don't know.
Yes, we won't, I think we'll make it happen.
It's the music business. I fucking hated it. I really hated the guitar when I first started playing it. It hurt my fingers, and I was playing out of a standard notation book, playing Jingle Bells and fucking Mary Had a Little Lamb and stuff, and I couldn't be convinced to like it. I used to come home from my mandatory guitar lessons and go bash on my drum set for hours. It was way more fun.
I think us in like lessons and stuff, there's always that point where like the guitar teacher just doesn't quite get it.
Yeah, no, I mean, this guy really meant well. I think it was like kind of it was a guy who came to my elementary school in the afternoons, and kids who wanted to take guitar would do lessons there. And, to be honest, looking back, I wish I'd taken it more seriously then, because I'd be a lot better than I am now if I'd taken it seriously.
Oh, for sure.
But I'll give a shout out, and I don't think I've ever actually told this story in an interview or anything, but it's kind of funny. We can give a shout out to my friend Jarrett Stieber, who's actually a really brilliant chef in Atlanta. He ran the Eat Me, Speak Me pop-up for the last couple of years, and he's about to open his own restaurant. But he was a really a great guitarist when I was in junior high. And I guess it was the 7th grade talent show. He played Back in Black. I was just I was looking around the auditorium and everyone was going crazy. And I suddenly, like, it hit me. I was like, shit, I guess guitar is cool. Yeah. And it's funny because I grew up in the music industry. My dad was in the industry, so I had always thought guitar was cool. But I guess I always saw myself more as a drummer because it's what I had taken seriously for a long time. But right around, I guess it was 12, maybe 11 or 12, I got psychotic about it, and my drumming suffered horribly as a result. But I, started playing what I now kind of call the Dream Theater practice regimen. I later learned was like what John Petrucci and John Mayung from that band had done in high school. But I started playing like 6 hours a day religiously.
Yeah.
Just trying to learn as much as I possibly could. I was listening to everything, and I was getting every book I could. And, I think that summer after 7th grade or 6th grade or whatever it was, I learned like the first 4 Led Zeppelin albums note for note, and like Are You Experienced and all of the classic Hendrix albums note for note. And like I just kind of went nuts about it. So, and that was kind of the beginning. And then pretty much until the end of high school, man, I was playing 4, 5, 6 hours a day. I went and did a summer program at Berkeley College of Music in Boston, and was playing 8 or 10 hours a day there, which was awesome. It's so much fun and so intense being around that kind of the cadre of musicians that are there, and that hive mind was amazing for a 16-year-old kid, which was so cool. But yeah, man, I started out as a drummer and then switched to guitar pretty heavily, and I don't want to say I've never looked back. I play drums every couple days just because it's still a blast, but I haven't played them professionally since I was probably 17.
Nice.
So.
Well, yeah. So I think what you're explaining, there's kind of a through line there with if we're kind of where you ended up. Whereas you kind of found something that you were really interested in and passionate about, and you really took the time to drill down into what you really liked about it. And I wanted to kind of pivot from talking about guitar specifically to talking about your relationship with Fractal Audio.
Sure. Yeah.
So, we on this podcast are very pro ampless. Me and my co-host are Helix guys. I know you and I have had plenty of offline conversations about those two platforms.
Sure.
But how did you get involved with Fractal Audio?
Yeah, so I, as you alluded to earlier, I started my YouTube channel in college doing the solo of the week or solo a week, and I was using actually the precursor to the Helix, I guess, which was the Line 6 Veda amplifier.
Yep.
Which is what I had at the time, and it was a cool amp. It was, really one of the first kind of worthy additions to the live amp digital thing, I thought, really.
Yeah, for sure.
And right around the end of college, I guess, the Axe 2 got announced, and this is another just super random story, man, and it's kind of it's a tale only possible in the social media era. They tweeted about being almost done editing or writing the manual for the new Axe 2. And at the time I was at Northwestern for college, and I was working my student job. I was working as a copy editor in the writing place for graduate students and stuff to take their papers to get edited. And I tweeted back at him. I said, "Hey, I'm an editor. I work at Northwestern. I'm a big Fractal fan, and I'd love to read the manual and help you guys edit it." And Matt Picone, the director of Fractal, who was just recently in my wedding, is one of my dearest friends in the world, emailed me back, and that kind of started the whole thing. I got an Axe 2. I started using that on my channel. And I started posting a lot of tutorials. It was kind of early on in the Fractal's rise to the heights that it's gotten to now, as far as pretty, I don't want to say dominating the industry, but
it is a ubiquitous product for sure.
Yeah, it is done as much for the amplifier business, I think, as and live guitar performing and studio guitar performing as the JCM 800 or any other kind of earth shattering, the original pod, any kind of paradigm shifting technology. And that's attributable, almost entirely to Cliff Chase, the inventor of the Axe-Fx, and Matt Bacone, who's the director of the company and kind of guides it. And, I started using it and I loved it. Obviously, it's an amazing unit. And a lot of bands kind of started calling me to help them out to get, to take the plunge, because I was posting a lot of videos on YouTube. And when people went to YouTube to see what's up with this Axe-Fx, a lot of them kind of came my way. And that got me into a lot of really, really cool relationships with a lot of great groups and a lot of dear friends. And it's really kind of been a through line in my professional career as far as both guitar and kind of video through YouTube and everything.
I know you don't want to toot your own horn, so I'll toot it for you. So Cooper's worked with a number of artists. Just off the top of my head, James Valentine from Maroon 5, the guys from Bush. You've been pretty heavily involved with getting Neil Schon from Journey transferred kind of over into that ecosystem, as well as some other kind of lighter, consulting work with, other groups like Dream Theater, Taylor Swift, so on and so forth. So not just, fly-by-night operations, but like pretty heavy stuff. Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, I've been, very fortunate to have worked with a lot of, what I would consider kind of both people at the top of their industry and at the top of their craft, just amazing musicians and people. And the thing about it is Fractal's kind of been the key to all that, kind of the guiding, train tracks or whatever, metaphor you want to use. In my career, kind of every step along the way, Fractal's always kind of been a part of it. A lot of those bands, as you mentioned, there's, light kind of production consulting where I'll come in and, talk about how they're going to use the Fractal and how it can really help their live show or their album or whatever. And a lot of those relationships have really turned into pretty fruitful collaborative things where we'll do a lot of the design and thinking behind the guitar performance itself, kind of separate from any kind of gear, related questions about, what parts we're going to play, how do we want these songs to sound live? And it's turned into much more of a kind of, I don't know what term you'd put on it. I call it production consulting. You could call it sound design, but, musical direction for guitar or whatever. But it's been really great. And like I said, some of the bands that I've been fortunate to work for, it really has turned into a very collaborative, really cool, mutual kind of relationship. So it's like the coolest IT job in the world.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, yeah, exactly. Sometimes it is a lot like that. Sometimes it's kind of rote, programming of sounds, and other times it's much more esoteric. It's more about, what's the vibe of this song?
Yeah.
What kind of parts are we going to write to play live? Because so many times guitarists are trying to mimic synthesizer sounds or trying to, play a part that's totally different from what was on the record because they're going for something entirely different. So it's been a lot of really cool and very different work on that side of my career. Yeah, for sure.
Very cool. And was it through Fractal that you ended up kind of fostering a relationship with Ernie Ball, Music Man?
I guess you could call it kind of a tandem relationship. I've been a massive Dream Theater fan for a long time, since I was at Berkeley, and they're kind of my, there's like Led Zeppelin, and I always kind of crack up when I list my like biggest influence because they're super esoteric, I think, but like I'm a massive fan of Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd, a massive fan of Dream Theater, and then a fucking huge Indigo Girls and Matthew Sweet and Sean Mullins and Crosby, Stills and Nash and Joni Mitchell. Like I have an enormous separate singer-songwriter side of my, kind of call-outs.
Well, and that's interesting because I like the gigs that you do take, because you are still, for all intents and purposes, a working musician. Most of the gigs that I see you working are those kinds of gigs, kind of singer-songwritery, like you're going down to like a 38 fest and that kind of thing. And
sure, yeah. I went through a period there before I started doing a lot of more of the production side of stuff, which, to be honest, takes up the majority of my time now. I don't play live as much as I I don't think anybody plays as much as they want to. I don't want to sound like, I'm angry about it or whatever, but I don't play live as much as I want to anymore, just because I've really found this work very fulfilling, and it's a lot of travel and everything. But yeah, when I was, in my early 20s and I was gigging really hard, it was mostly with singer-songwriter acts, Atlanta singer-songwriters. And then, I was making original music, which was more kind of, sometimes I like to call it like John Mayer, if he played solos that sounded like Eric Johnson being ripped off. That's kind of like my solo band style. Yeah. So, very different music, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny if people go on YouTube and watch my demos for Ernie Ball, Music Man guitars, they would assume all I play is like metal. And the reality is I don't think I've ever actually been paid to play a metal gig. It's always singer-songwriter, blues, which is, I love that stuff, but I don't think a lot of people who know me from YouTube would ever assume that's what I'm doing when I'm on stage.
Yeah.
Chauvet DJ is the brand of entertainment lighting that literally puts your band in the spotlight. Your band's stage presence and image are critical to your success. Chauvet DJ lighting can add visual energy to attract crowds and set your band apart from the competition. Adding lighting to your gigs not only helps the audience see who's rocking, but bands who have even basic lighting have been perceived to actually sound better. Chauvet DJ makes lighting easy with systems that can be set up and torn down in a matter of seconds. From subtle color washes and fades to high-energy strobes and chases, Chauvet DJ makes lighting control just as easy. Chauvet DJ's LED products have multiple control options, including auto programs and sound activation modes, wireless foot switches, perfect for guitarists, and remote control options. Chauvet DJ's innovative Bluetooth wireless technology lighting products can be controlled right from a phone or tablet with no additional hardware needed, using the free BT Air app available for both Apple and Android devices. Chauvet DJ gear also has conventional DMX inputs and outputs for more advanced programming options. Learn more at chauvetdj.com. Don't just rock in the spotlight with Chauvet DJ.
Going back to the, the kind of Ernie Ball Music Man Fractal, I don't want to say that the Venn diagram of fans of those two brands is a circle, but it's pretty damn close. Yeah. A lot of the guys who appreciate the level of, technical prowess that's in the Fractal as far as what it delivers are the same kind of guys who appreciate guitars that are made at the top of their craft. And, obviously I endorse Ernie Ball Music Man and I'm a proud user, but I was a fan long before they were ever, sending me guitars to demo and stuff. I mean, they are such amazing instruments. And I think that level of, dedication to having the guitar speak in the way that you most want it to is something that's shared by Fractal and Ernie Ball Music Man. And so they have a lot of the same kind of fan base, I think. And that ultimately is what drew me into Music Man's orbit as well, was I was playing a JP6 in all of my solo week videos, and I was able to kind of approach them through the success of that, and also through Fractal.
Yeah. And I think they've been, this may just be me spitballing or being an armchair quarterback,
sure,
but I feel like they've been very strategic about partnering with YouTubers, especially like guys in this particular sphere, guys like Jared Dines and some of the other
Fluff and Jared, and I mean we're all on this same list of guys who love Ernie Ball Music Man and spend way too much time on YouTube. It's very much that orbit, and a lot of them are Fractal fans too. So I know Fluff's got a Axe 3 in his studio, and a bunch of other guys.
Yeah, I think when you're looking at it from a business standpoint, it's definitely a smart thing to do, because YouTube has become such a platform for younger musicians that
absolutely,
MTV isn't a thing anymore. So if you're going to see a band play a certain, or your favorite musician play a certain instrument, you're going to see it on YouTube. So for them to be, I guess, it feels like they're kind of out ahead of this whole situation. I feel like them and Kiesel have been very strategic about doing that kind of work.
Yeah, Music Man has been really at the forefront of, and obviously I owe their interest in me and my career to their interest and their savvy and real vision about breaking into the social media sphere very, very hard. I mean, they're They've done an amazing job of that in a way that a lot of companies, I think, have really kind of struggled to play catch up about.
Yeah.
And I've honestly just kind of been honored to be a small part of that. I mean, the 15-year-old me, it kind of flips out every time I do something with them. It's like I always wanted to play Music Man, and then here I am sitting on, I think, almost 10 years working with them, or somewhere around 7 years or whatever it is. But you look like a guy like Jason Richardson, who is so talented and so famous in the social media sphere, or a guy like Mateus Asado, who obviously is a session player, and he's toured with Tori Kelly, and an amazing player. But so much of his notoriety came from just posting Instagram videos.
Yeah.
That's where John Mayer discovered him and blew him up to 2 million followers or whatever he has on Instagram now. And it's really a whole new world. It's very prescient what you say about MTV, because it's very true. That's all of that vibe has kind of transferred over to social media.
Yeah, we talk a lot about it because, the people that listen to this podcast are musicians that are playing clubs and things like that. But there is a component to this that can allow you to break out of your kind of regional market in, huge ways that, a lot of people can't really fathom.
I think it's critical.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's critical, especially given how difficult certain areas and realities of the internet has made it for people in the music industry. It's so refreshing to see that when so many doors closed around that, so many more opened. And there's been a real shift toward a very connected internet-based music business that has turned out to be incredibly fruitful for a lot of people in a way that I think was very hard for some people to see 10 or 15 years ago as ever being a possibility.
Yeah, absolutely. So, if I was, I am, but if I was a musician, looking to break into that kind of market, that kind of work, like what would you suggest to a person wanting to kind of get into the social media / YouTube / music influencer kind of role?
Sure. Yeah, I think this is a topic that I could spend a lot of time talking about, and there are people who are likely more authoritative on it than I am. But I think your question reminds me of an Instagram post I made, I guess it was in April, when my Game of Thrones Guitar Orchestra single was released, and it made its way to the front page of Guitar World and was the top post for a while, and I screenshotted it and posted it on my Instagram. And I'm going to read you the caption, because I think this encapsulates my advice to anybody who wants to kind of be working in the social media, guitar, or music sphere in general.
Lay it on me.
I said, stay true to yourself, do what brings a big, stupid smile to your face, work until you're exhausted, and then work 3 hours more, because it's worth it. And that is what I would say to anybody who is trying to do this, is, make the kind of content you want to see. Obviously, you have to keep up with trends, and you've got to be smart about seeing what's popular and what's going on, and, where the business is shifting. But at the end of the day, if you're not making exactly what you want to be making, you're not going to care about it. You're not going to put the time into it that it needs to be, because, I think a lot of people see something like, when somebody goes viral or something, or if, an artist suddenly kind of appears, or they see that happening quickly and they assume that it happened quickly. And the fact of the matter is, that's just kind of like the last match strike. It's like that last moment when Tom Hanks gets that spark out of the log that he's been hacking away at for 2 fucking hours in Castaway. Yeah. Like, there's a lot of grinding behind that, and you have to put that in. I think a lot of people think that because the internet moves so fast, you can just do something and have it blow up quickly. And the fact of the matter is, you still got to work just as hard as you did when we were all recording to tape and, watching Pro Tools crash 800 times and, really grinding to get a single printed and all of that stuff that people used to have to do.
Well, yeah, now they're doing that though, and now they have to do it. They've got to shoot the video, and they've got to edit the video and do all the color treatment.
Right, yeah.
You're doing
that's a great
twice
point.
the work, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and the other thing is, and this is something I've struggled with in my career, and I still struggle with every day, which is that feeling that, you have to a certain degree, be a jack of all trades a lot of the time when you are producing social content. But there is also something to be said for finding like-minded people and really giving credit to guys who do things better than you do and saying, look, I'm going to be good at these things and you're going to be good at those, and we can work together. And there's nothing wrong with collaboration. The internet is so isolating and it's so dangerous because, everybody's trying to outgame everybody else. And I think in a lot of ways, social media makes us really unhealthily competitive. And some of the most fun things I've ever done in my career, and I know I'm probably speaking for a lot of people who do anything in the creative industry, is made so much more fun and so much more rewarding when you're doing it with friends and colleagues. I think I'm thinking back to a lot of tours that I've done a lot of work on through Fractal, doing production work, and just some of the best times I've had in my career. I would put those sessions, locked in the control room for 12 hours, just tweaking guitar sounds in some studio in LA. It was 12 long hours, but that kind of thing was as much fun as being in my rehearsal space with my solo band and taking that to the stage and playing a great show. It's all about where you can find fulfillment. And I think once you lock down what it is that makes you happy, you just have to fucking stay true to it. It's so easy to feel like you need to go do something else when everybody is popping up on your feed. I heard a great quote one time. It was don't get bogged down in, or I guess it's don't get disheartened by watching someone's highlight reel just because you're bogged down in your own behind the scenes footage. It's like everybody's just showing the good shit,
Yeah. It's the upside to social media is that you can just flex, and they don't have to see all the crap you have to do to get there. And that was was the best point that you made, was like, talking about these viral hits and things with these overnight successes. Most of these guys have been plugging away 5, 10, 15 years at their craft to have this quote unquote overnight success. It's just like, in the olden days where the, one hit wonders where, they debut at number one, but like they've been grinding for the last 10, 15 years to get to that point. And then, the other thing is like virality. I guess that's how you say that.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. It's there is a formula to it, and some people try to crack the code, but like you look at some of these, guitar guys. Like I'm gonna keep putting up Jared Dines because he's just kind of the gold standard on a lot of the stuff.
He's awesome, and he's a fucking great guy. Yeah, I will continue to put him up for sure.
But like guys, he's gone viral, dozens of times at this point because he's figured out a way to not necessarily crack the code, but he's found a way to generate content that brings traffic in. And
yeah, the other thing I would add to that too, which I have not always been great about, I would say at this point in my career in the last 2 years, I have been fairly slack as a social media guitarist, which I'm partially feel bad about, but I'm also thankful for because I've been so busy doing this kind of more production side based stuff with tours. And that brings me to another real key, which is like if you want to break on social media, you have to post consistently.
Yep.
Like that's the only thing that brings in subscribers. And subscribers are more important than views, and I'll stay true to that. I'll defend that to my grave because the YouTube and everything else is full of accounts that have one video with 15 million views and 20 other videos with 100 views, and they have 300 subscribers. And, that one viral video isn't enough to sustain a career. They didn't get much out of that probably, But then you've got guys like Jared who have millions of videos on every view, and he has, however many subscribers he has.
Pushing 3 million, I think, at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Rick Beato, who just hit 1 million last week, it's because he's uploading kick-ass videos every week, and he never misses a week. And that's, my subscriber base grew from 0 to 25,000 in the first probably year of doing solo a week, and I think it's grown 2,000 in the 5 years since then because, I'm not posting a solo every week. People want to learn. I'm posting what I think are, great guitar demos. I work really hard on them, but, I'm not aiming for those to go viral. Those are to inform guys about how great I think the gear that I love is. Yeah. And, it's, but it's a very different angle that I've taken on my social media accounts now. Yeah. So
do you listen to
there's my little, advice profile.
Do you listen to Gary Vaynerchuk at all?
You're not the first person who's told me I need to. I need to.
He will ruin you on social media, content creation stuff. But it's good information. He's a good guy.
There's always something to learn. There's like anything else with the entertainment industries, there's a good bit of, artistry and there's a good bit of artifice. There's always an angle to be had, like with anything else, and you just always got to keep learning where those angles are.
Yeah. So, what's next for you, man? What do you got coming up?
Well, I've a couple things. It's kind of a bummer we're not doing this in like maybe a month or two because I've got 2 projects right now that I'm really, really, really excited about that I can't talk about, unfortunately. So I'm sorry to kind of tease you there,
no worries.
But I will also be. I'm trying to get my instrumental solo album, which a lot of people have been asking for, wrapped up. Basically, kind of a most of every Music Man demo I do or Fractal demo that I do opens with a little 1-minute social media appropriate length song that I write, but I've turned all of those into full instrumental tunes. So I'm hoping to get an album of those out soon, which would be a lot of fun. And then, 2 other projects that I'm working on that I'm really excited about. But
he's going to tell me after we stop recording, and you guys are going to be so jealous.
No, unfortunately, I'm not. But we can do another one of these in a year, and we'll see if either of them happened.
Well, I mean, a lot of times, these things kind of people listen to it and they want to hear follow-ups. So maybe we could schedule some sort of follow-up a little further down the road. But I've been wanting to get your get your foot in the door to talk for a little bit, because we do definitely talk about a certain kind of or certain corner of the entertainment industry, and I wanted to just
very much
bring something up that people may not normally consider, but is definitely a viable career path or just a way to supplement the work that they're already doing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not I can't say anything other than that. I've been incredibly fortunate, and I think if anybody takes anything away from me kind of going behind the scenes and kind of tracing where my career has gone, in the last, I guess, decade at this point, pretty much, there's, of course, a lot of it is hard work. I work really hard, and there's no substitute for that. But, there is a big chunk of it that is kind of that shitty cliche you always hear. It's like, who you run into and who you end up working with. But I think that's something that you can put that energy out into the world, as cheesy as that sounds. I think, I can't remember who it was, they said luck is, 50% hard work and 50% good timing. You really do make your own good fortune. And it's, shit, man, I've struggled with it over my life. It's really easy to sit in your studio and just kind of mess around and feel like you're never going to go anywhere and the world doesn't give a shit about what you have to say about your music or your creative art. And I think it's something most artists struggle with, is the self-doubt and the kind of, why does this matter? I know I've definitely had encounters with that, and that's not going to get you anywhere. You got to get up and you've got to go out there. You got to go to local gigs and meet people like, you know, how we met. And you got to go out there and remember why you got into the business in the first place is that you fucking love music, and you've got to always just love music. I love the creative process, you know, whether it's video or music or, you know, I mean, shit, renovating my house, whatever it is. Yep. I love the creative process. And so I'm always going to find a way to really dive into that. And that's what people have got to do. You know, if you want to do this kind of thing, you've got to love the process, because at the end of the day, there are far more projects that I've spent time on that really didn't, you know, quote, do anything. And that could have really messed me up, you know, but I love creating so much that was as much the reward as having it end up, you know, in Guitar World or whatever. It's the process that's wonderful, and the people that you meet. And yeah, I mean, you gotta love making music or making whatever it is that you make.
It's man, that's such a cool point, because, you know, I found that, like, the process of building bands and building brands and doing the kind of work that, you know, in this kind of realm is just as fulfilling as, you know, writing music and releasing stuff and doing the actual performing. Because yeah, I mean, making something out of nothing is just, it feels good. It's cool.
It's great, man. It's the greatest thing in the world, and you know, for my money, I really believe that. I really mean that. You know, obviously the result is important, because that's, you know, this is real life. You know, it's not called the music not business. It's called the music business. And you know, I've never paid my mortgage with a good vibe. You know, but by the turn of that same coin, people who are in the music business, people who are in the creative arts, and who've been able to make any kind of career out of it, I think are in a really unique position to be doing something they genuinely really love. I mean, I know that at least 70% of the time, I am doing something that 13-year-old me would look at and be like, yeah, man, that's what I do in my free time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And of course, you know, since I'm a you know, real life adult human, there's a lot of it that is just work, you know, but that's life. Mm-hmm. But I think my most important thing that I tell friends or anybody else who's, you know, getting started or is struggling, or when I'm struggling, what I remind myself of is this is what I wanted to do, and I'm doing it. And not everyone can say that.
Yeah.
And that's something you really, if you're not very thankful for that, then honestly you're in the wrong business. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Totally, man.
And it's so great to see people embracing that, whether it's, you know, people like you who are building bands up, and, you know, the guys in Yacht Rock who've devoted their careers to just creating this awesome business based around just playing music and making people feel good, you know, or it's guys who are putting up tons of YouTube content or whatever it is. I think it goes back to what I was saying in that Instagram post. You got to be true to yourself. You got to do what makes you smile like an idiot. And, you know, when it doesn't work out, you got to remember that nothing's always good for anybody. It's not just the entertainment business. That's everything, you know? Yeah,
learn your lesson, move on, try something else.
Exactly. Yeah, well, and that's, you know, that's an important point too, is that everything is instructive. You know, there's not a thing that's happened in my career that hasn't taught me something, whether it was good or bad. And it's so glib, but it's so true.
Yeah. It's like Kenny Rogers said, man, you got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them.
Yes, there we go. Bring it to Kenny Rogers. I love it.
I think that's how we should end the episode. I don't see how we could top
it. We'll end it there. How can we top that?
Cooper,
I love it.
Thank you so very much for your time. Why don't you let people know?
Thank you for having me. It's been a privilege.
Absolutely, man. Let people know how they can get in touch with you, or how they can track you down.
Yeah, man. Facebook, Cooper Carter Guitar. Instagram, Cooper_Carter. Twitter, same thing. And then websites for people who use websites, coopercarter.com. You can find great links to my social media pages that I just mentioned.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much.
And then, of course, YouTube. I shouldn't, we mentioned that enough.
100%. All right, guys.
Thanks so much for having me on, man.
Dude, it's been an absolute pleasure. We don't get to catch up very often, so this was a good excuse.
We don't.
On a Wednesday night. So,
hell yeah.
So I'll go ahead and call it for this week. Thank you guys for tuning in. From Atlanta, Georgia, I am Adam Johnson. You have been listening to the Cover Band Confidential Podcast, episode 67. Have a great week.